Welcome back. All this month we're celebrating Pride, and to mark the occasion, EPIC, the Irish Emigration Museum, are hosting 3 Pride exhibitions, one of which is a very special project that honours the memory of the people who have lost their lives from AIDS-related illnesses. So this week I paid a visit to learn more. Today we're at EPIC at the Irish Immigration Museum here at the CHQ buildings, where not 1 but 3 Pride exhibitions are currently taking place.
The Names Project, or the Irish AIDS Memorial Quilt, was started in 1990 by a woman called Mary Shannon. And Mary Shannon had this amazing friend called Joe Carthy, and Joe contracted HIV in about 1988, 1989. Joe was this fantastic tour de force, and he wanted more than anything to educate all of his friends about HIV and AIDS and what would happen to him. So himself and Mary were really, really close. They went through this whole process together and his illness together. And during the time, just before Joe died, he got a book, and it was about the American Names Project, which was actually the Quilt project which had started in America. He got this book and he said to Mary, you know, that's the way I want to be remembered. So when he died in 1999, Mary and her friends gathered together. They went to the Dublin AIDS Alliance up in Parnell Street, and they started making the first panel of what has become the Names Project, or the Irish AIDS Memorial Quilt. Each of the panels, when you look at them, are the size of a standard coffin. So it brings home that idea of the physicality of these people and their death, and that idea of this represents them in the last space that they occupied on Earth. In terms of the pieces that are on them, everything that's on it is completely personal. So you have personal belongings and things that are made by loved ones to represent that person. And it's all about those memories, those last little pieces of physical attachment that you have to a person when they're gone. So you've got beautiful things, you've got things that represent the music somebody loved, or the type of fashion they wore. Sometimes people's own clothing is stitched into this to show what they used to wear when they were alive. It's very beautiful.
Thinking back to that time of the 80s and 90s and the stigma associated with AIDS, it must have been an incredibly brave move for both Mary and Joe to be so vocal about their project and what they're trying to do. And in fact, it was displayed at the Mansion House. So how was feedback at that exhibition?
Feedback was immensely positive about that. The Mansion House numbers were probably about 9,000 to 12,000 people who visited it during the week that it sat in the Mansion House on display. And I think that shows how many people were actually affected by HIV and AIDS in Ireland, because it was such a silent thing. There was so much stigma, but actually a huge amount of the population were affected by it.
Judith, as custodian of the quilt now, sadly after Mary's passing last year, what are your hopes and plans for it going forward?
I would love to keep it on display as much as possible. For me, it's very much a community piece, and it's a piece that people should engage with. There is nothing quite like standing in between these quilts, and it really feels like you're wrapped in the quilt, and you're wrapped in the emotion of what these people felt when they lost their loved ones. And I think that is so important. If people actually get to experience that in reality, there are options where we could put these away in storage and keep them preserved. But I think for now, the community piece is really important, and getting them to as many different locations as we can, so as many people across the country have a chance to engage with them in this way.
Enda, Robbie, it's such a pleasure to get the chance to chat to you both today. You both have very different stories about your HIV status and finding out. Both of you were very young. You might give us an idea of the shock that you felt back then.
I was 21. It was back in 2012, and I went for my very first sexual health check. And when I went to get my test, I got a call back 3 weeks later. And when she sat me down to say that the blood test that I'd done came back with a HIV positive result, I can't describe the feeling, because I couldn't understand how I was getting a HIV positive result, because I didn't know HIV existed in this country, genuinely. I never talked about HIV with my friends, with my sexual partners. I never seen a HIV campaign that I can remember. But I also got another shock, because I was told that I couldn't get a residency visa to Australia. And I was planning on going there for six months later with all my friends, and I had a job waiting there for me too. Where I wanted to be in life was Australia from a very young age. So I got this double whammy. I got this shock diagnosis of something I didn't even know existed in Ireland. And I felt that my dream of going to Australia was taken away I suppose, thankfully, I was diagnosed in 2012, and I was reassured, me and my mum, because when my mum came into the clinic, she was like, is he going to be like Freddie Mercury? That's what she said, because we knew nothing about HIV. And we were both reassured that the medication is there, it's very good, and it allows you to live a long and healthy and happy life.
And it's fascinating listening to Robbie's story, because the one thing that stands out is he was really mature to go for a sexual health check in the first place at 21.
Yes.
And yet there was a serious lack of education there because, as Robbie said, there was just nothing visible, no campaigns, no understanding of HIV. What was your story like?
It's still shocking to me now how little education there is around HIV and how little the government and the Board of Education and all of the ministers are doing about the stigma that's experienced by people living with HIV. My story is very different to Robbie because it took me a very long time to come out about my status. Coming out is the expression we use, like coming out as gay, coming out as HIV positive. It took me 10 years to do because when I got my diagnosis, I was already in my mid-30s. I had been tested loads of times and obviously had never tested positive before, so it was a bit of a shock. For me, it did feel like a bit of a death sentence because it was a long time ago. The social environment was different and the medications were different and the stigma was just as bad as it is now. Actually a little bit worse because we didn't have marriage equality yet, so it was kind of a different landscape socially. All the time I've been performing, writing music, and really putting myself out there, it was the only part of me that I never put out there. And one day I was writing a song with my friend, amazing trans artist called Lady K, and the song is called I Came Out One Night, and it's about having to tell someone that you love that you're HIV positive. So once I'd written the song, I thought, this is a secret I can't keep anymore because I don't want to sing from my heart and hide anything about myself, which is very healing for me. And I want that for other people in my position.
The advances in medicine in the past 30 years have been extraordinary, and people don't necessarily realize it's not a death sentence anymore.
It's really important that as a society we do everything we can to combat the stigma associated with living as a HIV positive person, because then we can all just have a shame-free, happy life, which is what we all really deserve. And we want to make a call, you know, to anybody who can help us, anybody who is working in a company, in a school, in a college. If you would like us to come and talk to you about HIV, we have your back.
Now, you two have been in a bubble during the pandemic, and
Yes.
as a result of that, you've been able to create the wonderful Pause Vibes podcast. Tell us about that, Enda.
The Pause Vibe podcast basically is a resource for HIV positive people to find each other, just to listen. It can be hard if you're in the closet about your status to connect with other HIV positive people. And the beauty of a podcast is you can just listen. Nobody knows if you're listening. You can tune in every week. And we think it could be transformative for lots of people because it's been transformative for us. It's our own version of an Irish AIDS quilt, really.
Life is fun, life still goes on. I know people who have the most amazing lives living with HIV, and we just want to share the diversity within the stories of people. And through that, healing can happen because it's the secrecy around HIV that creates the trauma. And Laura, I said from the beginning, when I was 21, there was no one talking about HIV. Now we have people coming up to us asking, can we be on your podcast to talk about my HIV status? So there is momentum in this country. People are realizing that this isn't a secret that they need to hold.
Guys, for people at home watching this morning who may be impacted and affected by what you're saying, how can they reach out for help and where?
But there's an amazing service, Empower it's called, and you can find them on Instagram or on their website, and they provide free home testing and lots of other services for people.
They have WhatsApp numbers on the website where you can just reach out if you have any questions related to being queer and queer sexual health, and indeed HIV, which we're talking today, which is super important. And you call them, they'll answer. They're amazing.
And for more information about the Irish Names Quilt, you can check out outintheworld.ie. And of course, details are also up on dublinpride.com.
Brilliant piece of film, Laura.
Lovely.
Really, really touching and striking, and what a beautiful tribute that the lads are paying to people who've lost their lives. And interesting to hear Enda and Robbie talk about their own stories, but how it impacts their families as well.
Yeah, that's so true. And they were actually saying that their mums are their guests on their podcast, Pause Vibe, this week, because it isn't just about the person who's received the diagnosis, it's the ripple effect, how their family and friends will feel as well. But it was fascinating and a real education to listen and learn from them, just how far the medical advances advances have been. When you're thinking to the pandemic this year and, you know, creating the vaccine in a year for COVID, and then, you know, within 30 years, HIV/AIDS went from being a death sentence to very much living a full, healthy life and managing it with medicine, you know?
Yeah, it's been a long
that
struggle.
exhibition, Laura, will go on tour.
They're hoping that it will.
Yeah.
It could go back into storage, but Judith is now the custodian after Mary, who started the quilt process, passed away sadly last year, and her hope is that it will go on tour nationally. Yeah.
Well
very
done.
worthwhile.
Well done to the lads. Now, the Pride texts continue to flood in
they
this
do.
morning. Angie said, we're looking forward to a safe and fun Pride weekend with my daughter, Aoife, who came out to our family last Christmas. She's an amazing girl, and we're very proud of her. So well
We're
done.
hearing lots of, again, that family, the importance of that support network. Wishing every single member of the LGBT community the warmest wishes on Pride Day 2021. It's amazing to see how far people have come and accepting the differences. Have the best day, everybody. Happy Pride.
That's a lovely message to receive.
Lovely, very positive. Lots of positivity around today, which
Yeah.
I think is hugely important.
And David is saying, this day last year, my partner proposed to me and I said yes. So it's our engagement anniversary today. We'll be celebrating Pride by going for dinner in the city and can't wait to get married next year.
Come on, the lads, and wave the flags for that.
Exactly.
Oh, there's my
Weddings
flag.
on
Happy
hold.
anniversary.
I'll give you a wave of the flags.
Well done.
Enjoy your day, guys. Now we'll take a quick break. Lots more to come this Pride Saturday here on Ireland AM.